The scene opens with people whispering that she's even worse than the rumors say. No one knows where to place their eyes. Deborah gazes at someone and reaches a man. This man is trembling in front of her. When she smacks his head, his wig flies off. The nobles begin to murmur, how can she act like this? The old man, now hairless, asks Deborah why she's doing something like this. She says her hand slipped and slaps him again. He's crying now, asking why she's committing such an outrageous act. She scoffs, saying his grease-covered face made her hand slip, and tells him to make sure to wash his dirty face. This guy is a piece of trash who cheated on his wife with a servant and even broke his poor wife's leg by pushing her down the stairs. People start to murmur again, what the hell did they just witness? But Deborah couldn't be less interested. After all, what can they even do? She is the daughter of Duke Seymour. She can do whatever she wants under her authority. The ball is in full swing when a lady comes to stand before Deborah and says she has something to say. This is the Viscountess Lep. Deborah puts her glass on the table and allows her to speak. But when the lady says her name, it feels like she's about to hiss like a snake. With a flash of tension, she advises Deborah not to drink too much, saying she's worried about her health, and then she leaves just like that. But deep down, even Deborah was nervous. She doesn't know why she got scared the moment this lady came up and spoke to her. The real truth is that our Duchess is secretly very timid. She has decided that she will no longer be the kind and pitiful girl she used to be. She has decided to reveal the backbone of a viscount and live comfortably from now on. Now we see the laughable life of our protagonist, who is practically crying as she gets a text from her appa his tires fell off, and he needs money. She sighs, thinking how her relatives seem to pass away every week. After giving all her money to this appa, she's broke. She then texts the group to give her all the materials they've collected, and they apologize with excuses about having a cold and other lame reason. It seems like she'll have to go alone again this time too, to the library. She's really hungry and wonders if she should get a rice ball. But the girl is forgetting she's only got $3. Then she hears someone saying not to step on it, it's brand new. The boy tells his girl that he got it at a premium price and it was so hard to find, he thought he was going to die. It's her appa, the very one who borrowed money from her, saying his aunt passed away. She wonders what he's doing here. Hojin appa fired asks him how a beggar like him got money, and he tells him he found a pushover. Do, our female protagonist, hiding nearby, hears all of this. Her eyes widen as she eavesdrops, wondering if she really is a pushover. Do people actually know her by that name? The boys talk about how she even does all the work in a group project, and they just have to show up to collect money from her. They laugh that, at this point, she's a complete pushover. She starts to remember when he used to say he liked her because she was so nice. The memory stings, she feels deeply betrayed. Then she gets a call from her mom asking if she's going to come to school. Do questions why she's calling her there, only to realize her mom is calling her to come wash the dishes and bring food for her brother. Do is like, can he make his own food? Her mom is shocked and asks what she's even talking about. If she can't make food for her one and only brother before her mom can say anything else, she hangs up. Then she starts to think about those words that she's nice. She should have known better. Those words were just another way of calling her a pushover. She stands there, wondering if she really was that much of an idiot. That's when a T-bike comes her way. She doesn't know why, but she realizes something like this right before her death. Just like that, she dies a meaningless death, and reincarnates via transmigration into an R-rated reverse harem novel to devour a thorn as the villainess, Deborah. She wakes up in Deborah's body and wonders where the hell she is. She's sure she got hit by a motorcycle, but now, she's perfectly fine. She gets up to look in the mirror, but the moment she sees herself, she's struck speechless. Damn, this girl is a baddie. She starts slapping herself, wondering why the hell she hasn't woken up yet. Now that Do has reincarnated into Deborah, she thinks this must be a fever dream. Just as she's still processing, the maid comes in and freezes in shock, dropping the food on the floor. The maid starts to cry and beg for forgiveness, insisting she saw nothing. Deborah is confused. What's up with this maid? While the maid continues to plead, saying she really didn't see anything, she says her name and suddenly, Deborah remembers. That's the name of the maid from the novel. She realizes now she's in a villainess's body. She knows Deborah. She was a hardcore villainess the author designed specifically to make the female lead suffer. The top comments always hated Deborah. She was the typical chaos bringer, left with a pathetic ending where she was locked up in a cage. Pale skin, blood-red pupils, and flaming violet hair, she now looks exactly like the book's description. Someone then bursts into the room, shouting about what the maid has done again this time. This man is Deborah's father, Seymour. He's one of the top 5 archmages, even among the noble-born magic generation. A man with a temperament as cold as his eyes. Marion, the only person he ever opened up to, passed away after giving birth to the youngest child. Since then, he became colder than ever. More importantly, he looks at Deborah and says that the tantrum about the jewel wasn't enough. Now she started self-harming too. He calls her an embarrassment to the family. He says she keeps ruining her face, and asks what's so special about that jewel anyway. She remembers there's only one like it in the whole empire. It's the Link Diamond, and it seems like she threw a tantrum about it and even went on a hunger strike. He warns her. There's a line she must not cross as his daughter. He gives her a probation. Deborah is stunned. How can her dad be this handsome? The maid is still on her knees, repeatedly apologizing. Deborah kindly tells her it's okay and that she can leave. With robotic speed, the maid picks up the food and leaves. Deborah sits back, already done with this reincarnation nonsense. She thinks about how she died because she was a pushover her whole life. And now, she's not even the main character, just the villainess's best friend, and a hated villainess on top of that. She's really pissed. Why out of all people did she have to become Deborah? But still, she starts to think, maybe this isn't that bad. It's day 10 of possessing Deborah. Living with the worst reputation and being the villainess with all these terrible traits, she realizes it's really not that bad. She eats the food and finds it delicious, but then she looks at the maid's posture and wonders just how horribly they must have been treated to act like programmed machines. But again, she thinks it doesn't matter. This girl Deborah isn't bothered anymore. She thinks maybe it's a good thing. When the maid asks if she's done, Deborah, trying to act like a proper villainess, says yes and tells her she can leave. Because of her past life, she's learned one thing: it's better to be a nuisance than to be looked down upon. She's glad they all avoid her. It means she can do whatever she wants. With Deborah's body, she remembers this is the first time in her 24 years of life that she's lived this luxuriously. She really can't believe how peaceful her mornings are. Who would have known how tough her previous life had been? And if this is what probation feels like, she wants it forever. Moments later, someone comes to greet her. It's Helen, the second daughter of the Baron and also a designer. Deborah decides that even if she can't go out, she can just call the designer to her house. This isn't just a silver spoon in her mouth, it's like having an entire diamond lodge there. She really can't seem to adjust. Helen then calls for the Freeze Stone collection, and the maid arrives with ultra-extravagant dresses. Within seconds, her room turns into a full-blown department store. Helen, beaming with joy, eagerly prepares to show Deborah all the dresses she's made. But as Deborah stands still, silent and unreadable, Helen grows nervous. Why isn't she saying anything? Why does she feel so intimidating? A memory surfaces, one from before Deborah transmigrated. Deborah had been so full of excitement, she had ordered Helen to make her new dresses immediately. But Helen, trembling, had explained that the shop already had far too many reservations. Her voice had barely come out as she asked if Lady Deborah was refusing her request. Terrified for her life, Helen had quickly corrected herself, swearing they would prioritize Deborah's dresses. And now, back in the present, she reminds Deborah that the dress before her is already wildly popular. Helen, internally panicking, knows that she can't find a way to flatter Deborah, who knows what fate might befall her tiny, fragile life. Trying to redirect Deborah's attention, Helen explains that the white fur on this particular dress is the centerpiece, it's the star of the show. If Lady Deborah would just take a closer look, Deborah steps toward the dress, and in that moment, she genuinely thinks it's amazing. It's flashy, over the top. She still can't get over Helen's earlier diamond spoon comment, but honestly, with a face like this, Deborah could make anything look good. Helen cautiously steps forward again, asking if she likes the dress. Deborah frowns and flexes her jaw. The air in the room tightens like a squeezed lemon. Helen, sensing imminent danger, blurts out that the dress is only a prototype, a mere preview of what they plan to make for her. If Deborah can grant them 3 more days, they'll produce something even flashier, even more refined. To Helen's horror, Deborah raises a brow. She's already shown her this level of craftsmanship, and yet there's more? Helen, practically sweating, assures her that they'll create any dress Deborah wants, with more jewels, more flair, more drama. And so, the entire team moves as if they're on a top-secret military operation. Helen's underlings dart about like they're filming Mission Impossible. Deborah, now satisfied, internally celebrates because the worst part is over. Jewels are the best, after all. They can always be converted into cold, hard cash later. The scene shifts. Now, Deborah is staring at a mirror, looking at herself, or rather, looking at the face of this body she now inhabits. No matter how many times she sees it, the face still stuns her. Just a simple raise of her eyebrows gives her a terrifying present. She loves this face. In her past life, she looked so average and forgettable that someone stopped her every 50 minutes to ask for direction. But now she's so intimidating that people wouldn't dare come within 100 meters of her. There's a knock on the door. A maid informs her that the private tutor has arrived. Deborah doesn't know a single thing about this tutor. As she walks down the massive hallway, she's struck again by how absurdly large this house is. How much money and manpower must have gone into building it. She's envious. She even got a private tutor? In a house like this? Still, Deborah's intrigued. What's next? After all, she's skipped every class, every piece of homework. She wonders if this new teacher is the same one on who real Deborah used to yell at her for not turning in assignments. Just then, under a window, she glimpses a strange, shadowy figure upside down. Suddenly, eerie memories start to flood her mind. Spooky, unwanted memories. But now that she thinks about it, hardship only belongs to the freaks, not to the ones calling them that. This is the realization she's come to after 24 long years of being a pushover. She finally understands she doesn't have to live like that here. As she keeps walking, she passes by a man. He is the second son of the family, Bilek, the one expected to inherit everything. In this family, twins are born every generation, and the talented ones, the ones who bear the bloodline strength, are forced into fierce competition. That's probably why most of the twins in the family develop personality disorders. Bilek glances at her with cold eyes. Apparently, the rumors about her being a wreck have already spread even to the magic tower. He tells her that Patrick, the private tutor, is a scholar he personally values. He warns her to behave properly. Deborah clenches her fists. Who the hell does he think he is, calling her wretched? When he's the real freak, the one who will, in the future, kidnap and imprison the female lead, Mia. If it were the real Deborah, she might have lost her mind at Bilek's cruel words. But this Deborah? The one from another world? She's not so easily shaken. Compared to her former family, this one is practically harmless. Cute, even. Bilek and the first son, Richard, are endlessly fighting to be recognized by their father. Compared to them, Deborah is just playing around. They're using her probation status as a flimsy excuse to exclude her, and yet she's still living in luxury, and that's thanks to Bilek. She opens the door. Inside, Patrick rises from his seat. Deborah sits down, wondering if this is really the man Bilek was talking about. Patrick, smiling stiffly, says they'll begin the lesson. It's an Astelia studies session. There are a few prestigious families in this empire whose influence stands just below the royal families. 4 families sit at the top. Among them is her own, the family in charge of the empire's magic and the affairs of the magic tower. That role has been passed down for 500 years. From the lesson, she understands her father is a duke, the current head of the magic tower. The very first head was an 8th-class magician and a foundational contributor to the empire's magical system. No matter what madness she causes, the family will likely be forgiven. In this world, what she has isn't just a diamond spoon, it's practically been upgraded to an orichalcum spoon. Still, she wonders, what kind of choices did the original Deborah make to end up in that cage? It's time for Deborah's magic field training class. Once this theory lesson ends, she'll be heading down for the practical. The teacher greets her nervously, and Deborah notices right away that everything she could possibly throw has been hidden away. To be fair, she has been through a lot of magic teachers. She's not just angry because of her past behavior, she's furious at the thought that she still can't use magic properly. Despite being a direct descendant of one of the most powerful families, she's completely unable to yield her magic. Frustrated, she slams her hand down on the oak desk, her eyes blazing. These teachers are all useless. Isn't it their job to help her awaken her powers? She feels guilty thinking about the past victims of her rage, but she can't help questioning whether she has any talent at all. Whether it's magic or swordsmanship, those are the basics for villains in these kinds of stories. Her family is famously powerful, so why doesn't she have the ability to match? She blames the villainous debuff. It must be sabotaging her. But then she shakes her head, no way. She's got beauty, stamina, and the backing of one of the strongest houses. She pretty much has everything. This year's magic instructor stands before her, visibly shaking, and carefully asks if they should begin today's lecture. The teacher mentions that they might need to step back, but Deborah doesn't listen. She's already halfway toward the magic circle. She remembers the original Deborah's downfall, the Villainess who bullied the female lead, Mia, out of pure inferiority complex. But Deborah doesn't have any intention of continuing that path. There's no reason for Mia, the original female lead, to still hold a grudge against her now. Deborah has no interest in repeating that cycle. In this story, main characters with powers always suffer from envy and persecution, depending on how much talent they show. That means if Deborah just quietly avoids attention, she might actually be able to live a peaceful life. That doesn't sound bad at all. Later, she's seen relaxing completely at a luxurious spa. She eats a delicate macaron that the chef only makes 77 of per day. At first, all this attention felt awkward, but now she's genuinely enjoying herself. When the maid asks if the water temperature is okay, Deborah casually says everything's good. She thinks it'd be really nice if this life continued like this, but she also knows she absolutely needs to change the original Deborah's future. The main reason Deborah was sent to the monastery in the novel was because she messed with the female lead, Mia, pulling her hair, slapping her, even putting hydrochloric acid in her drink. She did all kinds of cruel things. But worst of all, there was a voodoo doll. Mia, who was said to be the reincarnation of Saintess Nyla, was deeply connected to the second prince. The prince used that voodoo doll to desecrate Deborah in a country where the Saintess holds more reverence than even the emperor. Because of that, Deborah barely escaped the death penalty due to being a duke's daughter. But even so, she was immediately dragged into a public trial and then sent straight to the monastery. Deborah absolutely doesn't want to end up like that. If she really wants to live a calm, elegant life, the first thing she needs to do is avoid the female lead. Thankfully, this is still the early part of the novel. Deborah hasn't even met Mia yet. According to the story's timeline, the book starts with a boy named Pilaf, who is injured by a magical beast and falls in love with Mia, the girl who saves him. When he asks her what she wants in return for saving his life, she responds with that typical saintly line she didn't save him to be repaid, only that she hopes he gets better soon. The scene then moves on to Pilaf stressing over what to get Mia for her birthday. The butler suggests that the emotional first-colored diamond auction is about to start. This pink diamond is the same color as the Saintess's hair. Because of this, the pink diamond becomes the stone of destruction. Its price soars through the roof. Deborah, with her father's help, manages to locate the diamond first, but right before her eyes, Pilaf takes it and gives it to Mia. That's when everything starts to fall apart. Mia, who knew nothing, shows up wearing the glamorous pink diamond like a caveman holding treasure. Deborah, who has secretly liked Pilaf since childhood, couldn't accept that. She snatches the diamond away. Now, the present-day Deborah wonders what must have happened after that. But if she organizes her thoughts clearly, the first thing is obvious: don't meet Mia. And second, don't get involved with the pink diamond. If she can avoid both of those, she'll probably be alright. It's all fine. Compared to how miserable her life was in Korea, this isn't so bad. She's all set to try out her new free and lovely life. And first she needs to confirm the foundation of her greatest advantage, her father. On the other side of the estate, somewhere a guy with a hood says that finally it's all done. Blanche says the second diamond has been completed. The vice master comes in, commenting that it's such a great color, and he thinks the reception this time will be amazing too. Blanche says to the vice president that he thought women were not much interested in this hue. The vice master reasons that he would be lying if he said he wasn't. He does think Blanche is unreasonable, but he never imagined that a perfect domain of color would be this in demand in the market. After dispatching several agents, Agnes goes to find out more about Pilaf's obsession with her new girl and how his new girl likes gems, so he is searching for a diamond in her shade ochre like her hair color and has spread word in the capital that it's a rare item. All the women are talking about this pink diamond, and that Pilaf is planning to gift it to the Mia. The vice master says the word has already gotten out that the pink diamond is truly rare, and since more nobles are participating, he is sure it will be sold at a great price. It's all going according to Blanche's plan. Then, he questions himself, who does he think will take this diamond? It's been quite some time since the vice master started working with Blanche, but he still doesn't fully understand how he thinks. He says he believes Deborah will not take it. When asked for his reasoning, he explains that Deborah hasn't been seen for a long time and is also on probation for causing a fuss. That pink diamond. Blanche believes as well that there's nothing Deborah can do unless the Duke gives her his hand. On the other side, the Duke is reading documents when he throws them on the table, worried that Deborah has been quiet for quite some time now. After all, she likes to be extravagant, but she has hardly spent any money. He is concerned, especially after she went on a hunger strike and even hurt herself just for that mere diamond. It's quite disgraceful, he thinks. The more he dwells on it, the more he thinks that she's using her foul life as a threat his daughter, to see how far she is willing to go. After all, he isn't letting her go that easily either. Suddenly, the butler bursts into the room. The Duke questions him, asking what the case is. The butler, trying to catch his breath, tells him that Deborah is digging with a shovel in the Duchess's garden. This makes the Duke furious. He gets up, walking angrily, thinking that she's trying to take her anger out on his previous wife's garden again. After all, she hasn't been on probation for that long, and yet she couldn't stay still. He finally arrives and shouts at her, demanding to know what the hell she is doing. Deborah turns to him, saying that he has finally arrived. The sight of her startles him. She reminds him of his wife. He asks her what she is doing here. She replies that she was looking at the roses. The way she says it, it's the same way the Duchess used to. It makes him wonder if she's doing this outside on purpose, knowing he will get angry. He calls her a manipulator and questions what has gotten into her to walk around like this. After all, she only cares about jewels. She replies, asking what the difference is between jewels and the flowers. She explains that these roses don't have a scent, and they can't wither either. They've been preserved with magic so they don't change at all. She says to him that she is asking why they are any different. He asks her if she's really saying there's no difference between a gem and the roses that her mother grew. She replies that this is not what her mother grew. That flower will wither in the winter and will bloom in the spring, and this is what makes them beautiful. Her father says she keeps on spouting nonsense instead of admitting her mistake. But she insists this is not nonsense. After all, her mother wrote this herself. She gives him the letter. He sees that it is the paper his wife always used. She wrote this letter to him her handwriting. He asks her now, where did she find it? She points at the bushes, saying here. Now back at the manor, she is literally trembling. Her eyes are wide with fear, her body still reeling from the terrifying experience she just endured. The thought of not finding the letters haunts her. She had been truly scared. What if she couldn't find them in time? The idea that she might have to risk her life just to hand that letter over to him makes her heart pound. She wonders what her behavior had been like in the past, and in a strange way, she feels validated for remembering these pieces now. Originally, it was Mia who discovered the letters. She recalls that clearly. Not long after, she had been kidnapped by the twins, ending up in the rose garden, dragged there by Richard. He had claimed that everything this aftermath and the gems would eventually belong to her, questioning why she wouldn't just stay by his side. When she resisted, he pushed her to the ground, demanding to know if she was foolish enough to make him angry. That was when she saw the box. In the pale white night, she had secretly dug through the garden soil and uncovered a box containing the Duchess's letters. She later used that box to strike a deal with the Duke and escape from that place. Now, Deborah finds herself anxious. She wonders if it was truly okay to steal that item from Mia. There's so much weighing on her shoulders. Still, she understands how important that item is for the protagonist. She feels deeply sorry for Mia and is determined not to get her kidnapped again this time, especially not by her brothers. But something continues to gnaw at her. In the original novel, Mia had made a deal with the Duke using the letters. Yet, the diary was also found there. Why hadn't Mia used the diary instead? That question lingers in her mind. As Deborah walks down the hallway, the aide appears beside her, sensing that something is troubling her. She replies quietly that it's nothing serious, though her thoughts are elsewhere. She misses someone now. The Duke is reading his wife's letters, and she wonders if he had used more of his magic in emotional restoration, perhaps he would have found that box himself. She knows he mourns her loss too deeply. He had lost her far too soon. Later, there's a knock at the door. She allows the visitor, and it's Deborah bringing tea for her father. Her father gazes at her with a heavy, questioning look, as if trying to see through her. He asks what business she has being here. Deborah calmly gathers herself. She is not afraid. She answers that she believes he has overexerted himself, and she's brought some refreshments along with tea. He questions when she started concerning herself with his well-being, but even then, Deborah still finds him disarmingly charming. He tells her to take a seat. She's surprised pleasantly so that he doesn't kick her out. Eventually, the aide excuses himself and leaves. She notes that the aide seems worried she might cause a scene. Ignoring that, she offers her father a lemon tart and says he must be hungry, they should eat something first. She had prepared this lemon tart because she learned from the Duchess's diary that the Duke had always enjoyed lemon tart with tea when he was with his wife. Her father responds that having sweets in the middle of the night might upset his stomach, but she insists that this will suit his taste. He gazes at the tart, then finally takes a bite. His expression remains unreadable, making her wonder whether he actually likes it or not. Then, her father tells her that he knows there must be a reason she came looking for him. He wonders aloud if it's because she's here for a reward for the letter she found. He acknowledges that the object she uncovered was indeed priceless. However, he advises her to head back if what she wants is the pink diamond, as he has no intention of returning it to her. Deborah quietly assures herself that she isn't here to gain anything from him. She's here to give him her truth, her creative memories, and to know if there are more letters. When he asks how many letters there are, she tells him he will know in time. He looks at her with suspicion, wondering if this is just her way of manipulating him using his wife's letters to get what she wants. She replies calmly that she is not that kind of person, and her intention is only to give them to him gradually. After all, it would be a waste if he read them all at once. She remarks that it's getting late and that she should return to her room. He comments on how soft the lemon tart is and says he plans to go for a walk, which confuses her. Then he adds that after drinking something like that, sleep won't come easily, so it would be better if she had something like herbal tea or cocoa instead. The mention of next time catches her off guard. She wonders silently if he's truly worried about her, if he's planning to see her again. The next day, the Duke sits reading the letter while Deborah eats quietly nearby. She thinks to herself that, for some reason, she feels like a mailman. He is so absorbed in the words of his late wife that he doesn't even seem to notice her presence. She has already delivered 2 letters to him this week, and she begins to wonder whether there should be some kind of emotional threshold. How much is too much? At that moment, the Duke calls her over and questions if she brings him letter. When he is tired, she replies that she is. He asks her once more, pressing whether she's doing all this because she wants that unique diamond. She knows she needs to tread carefully, so she tells him that she felt bad, and since she was already there, she thought she should connect the two of them. Finally, her father asks if she has some time this week. She responds that she does, and he mentions that he plans to go out and have a meal with her. She questions him about her probation, but he simply sighs, saying that by now, she must have already earned the trust of their other siblings. She thanks him, though the Duke notes that she doesn't look particularly thrilled. In truth, Deborah had really hoped to have a relaxing time. She assures the Duke that she is happy, genuinely so, but admits that going out feels like a lot of trouble. She explains that it's just that she enjoys spending time with him, and perhaps that's why she doesn't find the idea of going out as appealing. Her father, however, remains puzzled, trying to understand what it is that she actually wants. Her vague replies make him feel uneasy. He just wants her to be direct. She insists that it really wasn't her intention to make things complicated. Then there's a knock on the door. A servant enters to inform the Duke that the vassals are gathered in the meeting room. Deborah stands and says that, since he already has something planned, she will take her leave as well and that she will see him over the weekend. Outside, Deborah feels drained, as if someone had sucked the soul out of her. It's hard trying to earn favor from a cold father, and the pressure of always being around him alone offers no comfort. She decides she'll do nothing for the rest of the day. Eventually, Balek approaches her, calling her pathetic and crude. She wonders where he even came from so suddenly. He slaps her side lightly, telling her that it would be better if she just stayed still and stopped making so much noise around here. He mocks the idea of this being a probation at all. Deborah is left confused and irritated. She has no idea why this guy provokes her so much. 2 days later, over the weekend, she finds herself eating a meal that is remarkably tasty. She wonders why a place that serves such delicious food isn't more crowded. Her father notices her looking around and asks her why. She tells him it just looks like this place doesn't get many customers. He tells her that was a rather boring joke. She can't believe that he even considers this a joke. Clearly, rich people's lives are different. Her father then asks if she has brought a letter again today. She says yes. He tells her that, since she has been delivering letters like clockwork, it makes him feel oddly good. He questions if that, too, is part of her plan. She admits that it is, and says she's glad. She informs him that this time, she intends to give him the letter differently. He doesn't understand what she means. She asks him if he'll spare her the usual stern demeanor at least after this meal. The Duke reflects on how much of his time he has been giving to her lately. Every day is filled with work and formalities. Both of his sons are curt and distant. He's beginning to feel tired of it all. So when she suggests doing something different, he agrees to go with her. Upon reaching their destination, she asks him to close his eyes. She reminds him that she told him she would deliver this letter in a new way this time. She would recite it to him. He chuckles, asking if she's about to put on a play now, and remarks that he didn't know she had this side to her. She tells him to focus, and eventually, he does close his eyes. She begins to recite the letter, which is written like a poem. The Duke recognizes it. It is "My Heart of a White Bloom." When she finishes, she asks him how it was. He tells her that this is the kind of poem his wife would have loved. There is no doubt. He says that it would have been nicer to read it himself, but her recital gave it a more light-hearted tone. He remembers his wife once saying that she had started reading romantic poetry lately and had been enjoying it very much. She had told him that when she closed her eyes while reading certain verses, she could almost smell the subtle fragrance in them. In moments like those, she felt as if he were with her. Now, looking at Deborah, he wonders if she really memorized this poem just for him. She asks if he liked the letter and if it was pleasant. She thinks to herself that had he read this poem from the page without her voice, he might not have felt the same. Elsewhere, Balek is furious. He's been noticing how often Deborah has been coming in and out of their father's quarters. It's beginning to get on his nerves. He's wondering if she's trying to earn more favor and if she's about to give up her probation entirely. His aide doesn't know either after all. The Duke doesn't speak much on the matter, and it's hard to figure out what's really going on. This entire situation is eating away at Balek's nerves. Balek finds it strange. He had thought she would have been kicked out by now, especially after hearing that she had been messing around in their mother's garden. And yet, here she is sitting calmly, sipping tea with their father, as if nothing had happened, enjoying a pleasant time. He genuinely cannot understand their father at all. If it were up to him, with even a shred of luck, he would have already kicked her out for disgracing their family name. Still, he supposes they will get her married off and kick her out after her debut. And yet, the idea of the frock that Richard has chosen for her he scoffs. It's vulgar, just like Louis, and they both seem to operate on the same wavelength. Richard, always playing around in his little compartments of intrigue, seems thrilled about the whole thing. At least, Balek assures himself, in this matter he is determined not to let Deborah get away with it this time. The next day, the two of them meet again, this time right in front of the estate. She asks him directly if he has some business with her. He scoffs at the idea, declaring that there is no way he would ever have business with someone as lowly as her. She retorts with a sharp tongue, asking that if he has no business with her, then why doesn't he just give her some space? He snickers and says that as her brother, he still wants to give her some advice, but she does not seem interested in the slightest. He mentions casually that he heard she made a huge tantrum over a piece of jewelry she didn't receive. He claims he's just worried that no one will want to marry her because of her behavior. Deborah, utterly fed up, tells him to stop talking such rubbish and get lost. But he only smirks and tilts her chin upwards, telling her she should be grateful to him. Even though she's good for nothing, he believes he would still make a decent partner for her. After all, what does she have but youth and a halfway decent face to boost her value? She shudders with revulsion and slaps his hand away from her chin. He sneers, telling her she should return to her etiquette classes. Deborah shouts back at him, asking just what the hell he's talking about. He simply smiles, introducing himself Louis. He says she'd better remember his name, because they'll meet again soon. The name strikes her. Louis. She remembers now he's that insane bastard who harassed the female protagonist in the original storyline. She demands to know who gave him permission to behave like this. He shrugs, saying he wouldn't have interfered if she could have solved her problems herself. Deborah snaps at him, saying she'll take care of herself and won't waste time on useless things. And if he's so concerned about her life, how about he just gives her some money and leaves her alone? Louis laughs, saying there's no way she's not going to mess things up again. And if she's still delusional enough to think Pilaf will accept her proposal, then she really needs a reality check. He claims Pilaf already has feelings for another woman. Deborah cannot believe it. He's even mocking her unrequited love for her own brother this time? Louis scoffs again, asking if she really believes Pilaf would accept someone like her as a bride. Because of her behavior, he says, she'll never be able to marry into a respectable family like theirs. Just as he's about to continue his taunts, Deborah cuts him off and declares that she's not getting married. This stuns him. He stares at her in disbelief as she clarifies her intention to stay single. He seems genuinely lost for words, which makes her wonder if he's gone deaf or something. Louis eventually mutters, asking if it's some kind of joke, because it's not funny. She tells him firmly it's not a joke. This is real. He tells her she shouldn't spout such nonsense. After all, this means she's rejecting the duty of a noble lady. Is she trying to become a nun or something? He warns her not to say things like that in public. There's a limit to how much she can insult their family. Then, with a smirk, he adds that someone like him is far more desirable than she deserves. He's sure that one day, she'll thank him. With that, he walks away, saying they'll talk about this again later. Deborah, lying in her room now, is furious at him and at his twisted nonsense. What is he trying to do, really? According to the imperial law, every noble woman must get married once she reaches adulthood. Since Deborah is already 19, she has to marry after her debut. She realizes she is truly in trouble. This whole book setting is a disaster. All her romantic feelings have already been used up because of that oppa, and now she has to deal with a pervert like Louis. She knows that as the family head, Balek has far more influence than a mere lady like her. At this rate, she's definitely going to be handed over to that degenerate. She calls for her maid. She needs to ask something that's been weighing on her like a demon's possession. When the maid arrives, Deborah asks what will happen if a noble lady refuses to marry if she outright rejects the proposal her family gives her. The maid looks she is about to cry, saying there's never really been a case like that. She gently suggests her imagined things. The maid, scarred for her life, says that if she doesn't marry, her title will be forfeit. She'll be considered dirt in noble society, and in the worst case scenario, she might be forced to enter a monastery. Deborah is horrified. That would be no different from the original noble route ending. She finally understands this is why she's being pushed so aggressively toward marriage. Still, something nags at her. She asks the maid again, are they really sure that no one else has ever rejected a proposal? What happens if a family arranges an engagement with someone their daughter doesn't even like? The maid pauses, thinking deeply. Then she recalls a case, a noble lady who eloped with a common mercenary. Deborah's eyes widen. She asks what happened next. The maid explains that no one really knows the full story. But that lady eventually received her title. She was a 6th-class mage who contributed greatly in the war, alongside her mercenary captain husband. Deborah realizes that this lady earned her title through war participation. In short, if Deborah wants to live as she pleases, she'll need to take part in the war herself. But that's impossible. There's no way she could do something like that. So, she thinks bitterly, maybe she'll just become a rich TikToker. Her dream had seemed so grand until she remembers this is a medieval setting. Money can't buy a barony title here. If only she had more time. Most nobles get married between the ages of 19 and 22. Maybe, just maybe, if she can save enough money in 2 or 3 years, she could buy her title and postpone her wedding until then. After all, she's still enrolled in the academy. But the main question remains, how the hell is she supposed to make that much money in the meantime? That's when she hears a knock on her door. She allows entry, and it's her father. He tells her they need to talk, and Deborah, visibly terrified, braces herself for what's to come. Now they are sitting together, and Deborah can't help but wonder what exactly is going on. If her father is here to talk about marriage again, she might lose her temper. She tells him that she will give him a letter once she gets back, but the Duke calmly replies that he isn't here to receive any letter. Instead, he assures her that whatever she wants, whatever it may be, she just has to say it. He's willing to give it to her. The real reason Deborah has been writing all these letters was because she didn't want to get kicked out. She just wanted to buy some time. The Duke has known for a while that she was stalling. He even remembers when she claimed she was trying to build a bond between him and her late mother. But he reassures her again he's not here to test her. She can ask for whatever she wants. Deborah realizes it might be rude to keep rejecting his generosity, so she gathers her nerve and asks him to invest in a business. The Duke blinks, clearly surprised. He expected her to ask about the pink diamond again. A business? He didn't see that coming. He asks her to clarify if she's really talking about starting a business, and Deborah responds with confidence, explaining she has a brilliant business plan. This isn't something the Duke was ready for. He expected another indulgent request. Still, he asks how much money she needs. Deborah writes down the amount. The Duke stares at it, confused, wondering if she missed a number. That much, for a business? But after a moment, he simply nods and tells her he'll send the full amount. She thanks him politely. As the Duke walks back, he's puzzled. Why did Deborah suddenly get this idea of starting a business? And what exactly is she thinking? He suspects it's somehow related to that damn pink diamond. He had already told the vassals that he wouldn't buy it for her, and maybe Deborah picked up on the fact that if he changes his mind too easily, his authority might suffer. Perhaps she's trying to grow his power in a roundabout way by making him change his stance. The Duke is totally off mark in his reasoning, but he proceeds with that interpretation anyway. He can't understand why she's been hesitating lately. Her actions seem far more mature than before. She's already working so hard, and for the first time, he stops seeing her as a naive girl. Eventually, he calls his aide and gives an order. He doesn't care how much it costs, win the bid for the pink diamond no matter what. A few days later, after receiving her business investment funds, Deborah also gets the pink diamond. She doesn't understand what it's doing here. There's a letter attached, stating that her father is proud of her for what she's done, and this is his way of showing his appreciation. Deborah stares blankly at it, pretending not to know what a father's affection is supposed to look like. This over-the-top gesture is so unlike him. It's absurd. And yet, somehow she feels warm inside. She's still surprised to find out the pink diamond is worth $1 billion. She tells herself she's being spoiled, but at the same time, she's enjoying the compliments and attention. After all, being labeled a wicked woman is surprisingly relaxing compared to the pressure of being pure. In her past life, she used to care for her body every day, and the one day she didn't, she was called dirty. Now she looks at the pink diamond necklace and thinks life might actually have some meaning. The necklace is so pretty. She wonders if Pilaf will stab her if she wears it. Then she considers selling it, but it would have to go through the auction house. There's no way her father wouldn't find out. And her prediction level is terrifyingly accurate. She carefully tucks the necklace back into its box. Maybe after a while, she'll think of how to use it. For now, she has to earn her first 40 million. She tells herself that if she builds enough wealth through her business, she can stop the marriage altogether. She starts thinking about the kind of products she should make. If she can get a few solid ideas, she'll be able to generate revenue consistently. That's when she notices an envelope with a wax seal on the outside. It reads, "Blanche Guildmaster, congratulations." She asks how much the pink diamond was sold for. The Vice Master responds, eyes wide as he sets the document on the desk. He glances at the final sale price and sees that it was none other than the Duke who bought it. He had expected Pilaf to win it, or maybe even Mia, or the Crown Prince. But it turns out, the Duke had the winning bid. The Vice Master realizes now that the diamond must have been far more important than he thought, and all his predictions were wrong. He wonders if he had underestimated Deborah all along, treating her as just another abandoned child of a noble house. He turns to Gerard and orders him to keep a close eye on the nobility. He also instructs him to ask the investigators to gather more information about Deborah. Something feels off. He's certain he missed something. Just then, he's informed that the trustee has arrived. He draws a circle of magic, casting a spell to reveal the person's identity. When the visitor walks in and removes their hood, the Vice Master's eyes widen. It's none other than Deborah. He doesn't understand that's how she got here. He gazes at her while the two of them are finally standing face to face. Deborah thinks that she is finally here, the seventh fawn of the Golden Dragon, in the line of Blanche, also called the certain Prince Cheaterly in the novel. He is the most capable and the most secretive character in the entire story. She is just a supporting character, and you all must be wondering how she got this jackpot. A few weeks earlier, she saw that deal a cat with a tail. She knows this seal is used by Blanche in the novel. He uses it to release real deals, according to his mood. This seal is usually used when he is pleased, and it's when the cocky prince is most active in the novel. The Crown Prince used to go to him and says to him that Deborah keeps picking up on Mia. He really wants to get rid of that woman, but it is difficult after all. She's from the family of the Duke. He says to Blanche to get rid of her, and he will give him whatever he needs. Blanche then creates a rumor that there is a curse. The hater, losing Deborah, connects it to necromancy. Deborah, unaware, creates the cursed doll, not knowing she is being trapped. The prince asks Blanche how she will be able to use that doll. He says that if she falls for blasphemy, it will be simple. This makes the Crown Prince truly happy. After all, even her funny wit won't be able to stand in front of the authorities of the goddess. Blanche gives him the proof of his request being completed. Then the prince says that he has added a clause for him in the contract. After all, he can put her on trial all thanks to him. The prince says that he thought those stamps were just decoration. Blanche tells him that he uses that stamp when he is satisfied. The prince questions if it's a girl beside her. Blanche says that this seal depicts this animal, but it is not the same. He thinks he is joking and asks what it means if the tail is up. Blanche replies that it's supposed to be worth 10 gold, but he is willing to explain if the prince gives him 9 gold and 99 silver. He even gave him a 1 silver coin discount. And that is that. The Crown Prince is the main male lead, but with Blanche, she wouldn't mind being anything. But there's a sudden realization for her that there is no way she can just use this man. After all, what she knows of him is that the man is a reliable person. But what if she joins him? And what if he masters it? After all that, Blanche has the ability to do anything with money, and she has nothing but money. And they have this fantasy match. And now, she may really need help from the master. Now, 1 week later, at the Atra district, she looks outside the carriage window, wondering, is this love? It's underdeveloped, after all. The layout is organized, and it will look really good once it is completed. They finally reach their destination. This place is not famous yet, but this is the one that caused a bit of a stir, that one diamond. And soon, it will become the most famous one. She even gets to the place, and there was a line of maids welcoming her. She says she is here to get some information about the link function, about becoming the manager. The manager finally comes and says to her that they are really taking long to serve her here. Deborah knows that she will have to say the code name so he understands. She says Golden, and whispers to him that she came to make a deal with the 7th fawn of the dragon. The manager, Mr. We Don't Know, thinks that he will absolutely serve her, and tells her that he will show her the way. She's now in front of Blanche. She didn't think that this jewelry shop would be connected directly to Blanche's place. Meanwhile, Blanche also thinks that he's lucky. He says to himself that he never thought Deborah would come to him. While this huge tiger, Juno, jumps in her direction, she tells herself to calm down. After all, she's here to clean up her mess. The tiger begins circling around Deborah, curious and cautious, but suddenly climbs onto her back, nudging its head against her shoulder in search of affection. Startled, she stiffens. All 3 people present, Deborah, Blanche, and the tiger, are equally shocked. Even Deborah, who nearly let out a scream, holds her breath. The scene is so absurd, she can only be grateful that this world apparently has the equivalent of catnip. Blanche, clearly unsettled by the strange behavior, narrows his eyes and instructs Deborah to sit while calling the tiger over. At his voice, the tiger seems to snap out of whatever trance it was in and quickly retreats to Blanche's side, its eyes downcast like a scolded child. It curls up beside him, looking utterly dejected, as though its spirit has been crushed. He turns to Deborah with a sharp gaze and demands an explanation. She instantly knows she must not reveal the truth. There's no telling what consequences might follow. Playing it cool, she offers a sly bargain. She'll tell him the reason, but only in exchange for 99 gold coins. It's a calculated number, less than 100, just enough to make it seem like a favor rather than extortion, since she also plans to ask him something. Her bold demand catches Blanche off guard. Then, unexpectedly, he laughs. First, a low chuckle escapes him, but it quickly builds into genuine laughter that resonates in the room. Deborah watches him with mild surprise. She had assumed he was a lean, almost delicate man, but now she notices the broadness of his shoulders, broader than most knights she's seen. He exudes strength, and the confident way he handled the tiger suggests more than just a noble title. He also looks younger than her, at least on the surface, but something in his eyes makes him feel much older. She finds herself wondering who exactly this man is. Blanche, regaining composure, makes an unexpected remark. This is the first time a client has genuinely piqued his interest. Apparently, as the premier of the intelligence agency, he reserves the right to take on commissions that personally intrigue him. And Deborah, unknowingly, has done just that. He wants to know what kind of request brought her to him in the first place. Without hesitation, she reveals her purpose. She's looking for information specifically on someone named Louis. Blanche responds immediately, his tone professional now. Louis, he explains, is the eldest son of a manor located on the western frontier. What makes this family notable is that a major silver ore deposit was recently discovered in their territory. As a result, they've rapidly become one of the wealthiest households in the entire western region. For Deborah, this confirms everything she needed to know. This is the lead she's been seeking. She could not believe it. Split in half? He told her to split it in half? She thought that this cutthroat jerk was completely ridiculous. A 5-5 split was way too high, but he calmly replied that since he was a kind person, he could reduce it a little for her. He explained that she might find more pink diamonds in the future, and once that happened, the scarcity of the gem would decrease, making this the perfect time to sell it. If she gave it to him, he would double its value at the auction, and that was the least fair price he should receive for his work. Although she was still angry, she had to admit that he was right. She needed to sell all those diamonds before their value dropped because the pink diamond's worth depended entirely on its rarity. She thought that if he truly managed to sell them for twice the current price, then even after splitting the profits, she would still gain a lot. But even then, a 5-5 split was impossible for her to accept. She proposed a 7-3 split instead, but he replied that he would agree only if she told him why Cookie had been drooling over her. At that moment, the cat-like creature suddenly appeared, and she guessed that maybe it was because catnip was used as medicine in this place, although she did not know whether it was meant only for cats. Even though it looked exactly like one, she still thought it was a shame to let the topic go. He explained that its name was Cookie because it stimulated interest, and since the next step after trading was also important, they should just settle on a 5-5 split. She could only think about how stubborn he was for refusing to let it go. Then he suddenly asked her one final question, whether she knew how to manage black funds efficiently. He casually suggested investing in other things, and she immediately thought that he definitely had good ideas. Although she possessed many gems and pieces of jewelry, she actually lacked gold coins with real monetary value. If she used the Duke's check, every purchase would be reported to her father, which meant she could not rely on that backup money. She also realized that an unmarried lady could not even open a bank account before her debut, making it impossible for her to earn money in her current situation. He explained that people usually sold estates and buried the money or hid it inside secret basement treasuries, but he personally found those methods troublesome. Curious, he asked what she would show him this time if he used his creativity. She inwardly cursed him as a bastard before placing the diamond in front of him and asking whether he was satisfied now. She proudly explained that she was not only rich, because the magic gem she had brought would be confiscated by the magic tower if it was mined within the empire. It was so rare that commoners could barely even see one. The blue magic gem itself symbolized the support of her father, the owner of the magic tower, and she had secretly stolen it. In return, she demanded something valuable from him, something that would normally be impossible to obtain without her status. He then handed her a pouch, and when she asked what it was, he explained that the bag contained space expansion magic, minimization magic, and summoning magic. It was capable of storing 50 large chests filled with money. All she had to do was specify the coordinates in the palm of her hand to summon it. There was no need to worry about losing it or even about the weight, because even if the bag was completely full of money, it would still weigh only 1 pound. She was completely shocked and asked if he had created it himself. He confirmed that he had, and she immediately realized that carrying this bag would feel like carrying around a small bank. Astonished, she stared at the bag and demanded that he sell it to her. He agreed, but insisted that they write a contract first. While reading it, she noticed that a confidentiality clause had been included. She immediately suspected that he used this bag for tax evasion, but wondered why it specifically had to be this bag. He simply answered that it was convenient. She then carefully asked whether the amount of hidden cash inside it was limited, but he remained silent. At that moment, she suddenly realized that she might have accidentally exposed the fact that she knew the bag was used for tax evasion. Seeing his expression made her panic, and she wondered if she was about to get killed right there. Desperately trying to recover, she pretended to share an interest in evading taxes and casually mentioned that if she possessed space magic like him, she would buy an island and run a ghost company instead of doing things this way. She explained that she would manage huge amounts of gold on a separate island while using a ghost company to complicate the cash flow. Since islands were rarely investigated for taxes, it would essentially kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Hearing this idea made him think that she was completely crazy. Still, teleporting across the sea required the abilities of a level 9 mage, while even her father, the greatest mage in the empire, was only level 7. She believed such a thing was impossible, but he secretly admitted that her idea was actually extremely creative, even more impressive than the bag he had invented himself. Amused, he decided that since she had shown him such an interesting idea, he would simply give her the black fun bag for free. She proudly boasted that it was only natural, because where else could someone find a trustee who was rich, powerful, smart, and funny at the same time? He jokingly pointed out that those were already 4 qualities, or maybe even 5, before deciding they should continue with the contract. As the stamp was pressed onto the paper, she noticed that the symbol on it was a swan instead of a cat. This immediately made her nervous, and she wondered whether that meant he was dissatisfied with the transaction or even planning to refuse future dealings with her. He then handed her a card and instructed her not to visit the Atra area if she had any questions regarding the entrustment, but instead to look for intelligence in the Yon's area. When she looked at the card, she was shocked to realize that it belonged to Maison de Yon's, the most famous dessert shop in the area. She could only think about how unbelievably rich he was if he even owned that place. She agreed to visit there and asked if she could come anytime she had an entrustment. He replied that they always welcomed expensive entrustment. As she finally left, she casually said goodbye, while he silently stared at the black swan stamp after her departure. Although she was an existence he had never expected, now that she had appeared before him, he realized he had no choice but to accept it. She was completely different from the rumors he had heard about her, and the more he thought about it, the more his curiosity about her true self continued to grow. He thought that she was arrogant, just not incompetent, and definitely not dumb. Establishing a shell company on a foreign island to avoid taxes, using it for a while, then never even needing to visit the island again while setting up numerous magical peaks at Hellion, which ruled the temples and held the advantage at the top, and then using all of it to fake the ledgers. Even the Emperor of Azutia would struggle to trace those taxes. He could not understand how anyone could come up with such a clever method. It was no longer just one or two things that made him curious about her. He could already imagine how interesting their conversations would become. He remembered how she had even joked with the crown prince before, telling him to give her 99 gold bars if he wanted to know something. It was supposed to be 100, but she had apparently made a special discount just for him. The more he thought about it, the more he realized she was completely different from what people said about her. Suddenly, Michel Drain appeared and asked whether he should personally investigate Deborah Seymour. He immediately questioned why Michel was meddling in it, but Michel simply replied that it had been a long time since something fun had happened. He then asked whether Isidore planned to handle it himself, but Isidore casually replied that the academy was about to reopen anyway, so they would naturally meet often even if she did not want to. Michel was shocked that he was actually planning to attend the academy. He pointed out that they would ignore his absences anyway and asked whether he truly wanted to waste money going there. Isidore simply replied yes, and Michel quickly surrendered, saying that Sir Visconti already knew everything. He assured him not to worry about attendance because they would simply put his name on the list and solve the issue. Isidore then explained that it would not be bad to get to know Duke Seymour's only daughter, and more importantly, he still needed to find out how she had somehow charmed his adorable cookie. Michel then asked how he even planned to approach her, but Isidore confidently replied that there was no need to think about that when he already had this face. Michel immediately apologized for asking such a vain question, but Isidore noticed his disrespectful expression and demanded to know what he wanted to say. Michel only replied that it was nothing. As Isidore placed the chains around his wrist, he told Michel to prepare for the academy as well before ordering someone to call the vice mayor because he wanted to add another color to the diamond collection. When asked what color he wanted, he simply answered that he wanted a lavender shade. 10 days later, Deborah looked around the street and thought that not many people visited this area for cakes and desserts. She already had a Red Ocean market, so she could never compete unless she introduced something truly special. While staring outside, she suddenly realized that spring had already arrived, and with spring came the opening day of the academy. According to the Empire's law, the person appointed by the imperial family from each clan was required to attend the academy. Thankfully, the academy focused more on social interaction than actual education, so it would not become too much of a burden. Even so, she hated the entire main role situation and absolutely did not want to go. She truly wished she could simply stay where she was forever. Still, she decided that she needed to check how the delegations were progressing and ordered the carriage to head toward Maisonde. As she looked through Maisonde's menu, she noticed that most of the items were already sold out. Seeing how crowded the place was, she immediately admitted that the owner truly understood business. Scarcity marketing for desserts had existed since ancient times. Even if they could sell more, they intentionally would not, and they would still claim items were sold out even when they were not. She wondered whether nobles with authority would simply tolerate such tactics. She then ordered a drink from the waitress, but the waitress apologized and warned her that the drink was extremely bitter and would soon be removed from the menu, so she would not recommend it. Deborah did not care at all and ordered the drink along with a cake anyway. Sometime later, the order was served, and she looked genuinely excited because cake and coffee were her favorite combination, practically heaven itself. However, just as she was about to drink it, the waitress once again reminded her that she had warned her already. The moment Deborah tasted it, she was horrified. She wondered what was wrong with the flavor because it tasted bitter, bland, and messy all at once. She even questioned whether it was poison. Maybe the beans had been mixed badly, or perhaps they had not even been placed properly in warm water. That had to be why it tasted so terrible. Even then, she sadly admitted that she still did not have another favorite combination besides cake and coffee. While thinking about all this, she overheard nearby conversation. Someone mentioned a rumor that Sir Daira Orge would be attending the academy this year, causing the others to become excited immediately. Hearing this, Deborah initially thought the rumor would be something more important, but it was only academy gossip. Daira Orge was the heir of the Orge clan, the famous swordsman family that had helped establish the country. He had mastered swordsmanship at only 19 years old and was even considered to be on the same level as the sword master crown prince. He was also one of the many men connected to the female lead, Mia. The girls continued gossiping, saying that Sir Daira was cool, but they personally wanted to speak with Sir Philip more. They wondered how a spirit could possibly be so beautiful, especially with his bright red hair that looked absolutely gorgeous. Hearing them talk like this only made Deborah think they were completely ridiculous. She could not understand how they found him beautiful at all. While eating her cake, she overheard another girl saying that she wanted to meet Sir Bilrek Seymour, although he had already graduated. The others praised him as noble and educated, which completely shocked Deborah. Noble? Educated? She could barely believe anyone could seriously describe him that way. Then one of the girls suddenly admitted that the person she most wanted to meet was Sir Isidore Visconti because he was unbelievably handsome. Hearing that name instantly shocked Deborah. The girls were completely obsessed with him. Confused, she wondered what was wrong with all of them before questioning to herself who exactly Isidore Visconti even was. Isidore Visconti? Deborah thought that this was the first time she had ever heard that name. She continued listening as the girls excitedly talked about him, saying that even if they had to sell their souls, they still wanted to see his face before they died. They claimed that once someone saw him, his face would continue appearing in their dreams. His chin was supposedly as sharp as a blade, his shoulders as wide as the sea, and his golden hair was unbelievably beautiful. One of the girls even declared that she had slept all winter just so she could continue dreaming about him. Hearing all of this left Deborah in complete shock, and she could only think about how ridiculous their flattery sounded while continuing to eat her cake. She admitted to herself that he must truly be handsome, but she still could not understand why someone like him had never appeared in the novel before. Soon, she overheard another topic being discussed. Someone mentioned hearing that the pink diamond had been auctioned at Seymour. Another girl immediately brought up Princess Deborah, saying that even hearing about her gave her goosebumps because her arrogance probably reached the sky by now. They all agreed that just thinking about her made them annoyed. One of them even commented that such a psychopath did not deserve a prize at all, comparing it to placing a necklace around a beggar's neck. Listening to all this made Deborah wonder why these people spent so much time talking about her. The gossip only continued as someone claimed that not long ago Deborah had stolen something together with Lady Helen, even though the dress for Lady Siren's birthday had supposedly been ordered far in advance. Another girl agreed and said that was why Lady Siren had been forced to change into a completely different dress. Deborah wondered whether they were talking about that incident. Did something like that really happen? The girls then continued insulting her, saying that she was extremely arrogant and lacked even the basic dignity expected of a noble. They mocked her further, saying that despite being a member of the Seymour family, Deborah was incompetent because she could not even control her energy properly. As Deborah slowly put down her fork, she admitted that it was true Deborah could not control her energy, but mocking someone in such a cruel way still felt excessive. She realized that because nobody could openly touch the Seymour family or Duke Seymour himself, people instead found it easy to spread fabricated rumors about Deborah. The more she listened, the more annoyed she became, and she decided it was time to leave and go home. However, as she stood up, her cup suddenly slipped from her hands. She immediately worried about what would happen if it broke, but the moment it fell, every lady in the cafe turned their attention toward her and instantly recognized Princess Deborah. The atmosphere froze in shock. For a moment, she thought about leaving, but then she stopped herself. She had spent so much time being insulted by people beneath her status while simply enduring it silently. This was the perfect moment to finally respond. Although the girls looked terrified, Deborah reminded herself that she did not want to live cruelly in this life. She calmly approached them and asked why they had suddenly stopped talking. Thanks to them, she had apparently been very entertained. The girls quickly denied everything, insisting it was not like that. Deborah then stepped closer, but suddenly the entire table flipped over. She had not even intended to break everything, but maybe that result was not so bad after all. The waitresses panicked and immediately called for the manager while Deborah walked toward the girl who had been gossiping the most. She coldly stated that she had heard her talking quite a lot about her. The terrified girl tried to speak, trembling as she addressed her as Princess Deborah, but Deborah questioned why she had suddenly started stuttering. She sarcastically asked why she could not continue speaking the same way she had before and whether she had always had problems with her tongue. Deborah then told her that if she found her dignity so lacking, then perhaps she should not have insulted her in the first place. The frightened girl immediately apologized and admitted her mistake. However, another girl suddenly stepped forward and questioned why Deborah had forced a designer to change clothes right before a birthday party had started, saying that everyone believed she had gone too far. The girl standing behind her looked horrified that she had spoken up. Deborah calmly replied that if crossing the line was what they wanted to talk about, then she would show them what crossing the line truly meant. Without hesitation, she splashed water directly onto the girl before immediately leaving the cafe. As she walked away, Deborah felt like she was shaking to death. This was the first time she had ever thrown water at someone like that. Still, after seeing everyone's reactions, she decided it was enough for today. She thought it would probably be difficult to meet the master now anyway, so she would simply return another time. She also realized that the only reason things had ended so peacefully was because it was her. If the real Deborah had been there, the outcome would have been far worse. Meanwhile, Duke Seymour received reports claiming that Princess Deborah had flipped tables and broken cups and teapots at the cafe, which left him confused. Another report stated that she had argued with Count Final until she cried. Hearing all this made the Duke wonder whether Princess Deborah was actually more intelligent than he had originally thought. His assistant questioned whether this was not the same situation as when he had once told the Duke to properly do his job and accused him of being overly self-conscious. Confused, the Duke asked why he was suddenly bringing that up. The assistant then explained that he believed they needed to reconsider Deborah entirely. A princess who always sent servants to purchase desserts personally went to the shop herself for the first time, which likely meant there was something she specifically wanted to discuss. He believed the speed of the dedication had not been satisfactory, so she intentionally gave them a signal. Otherwise, if it had simply been an argument with children, why would she fail to control herself? Meanwhile, Cookie seemed strangely excited. Normally, Cookie was not the type to be swayed so easily by emotions and instead preferred intelligence and coldness. Yet when comparing Princess Deborah's actual behavior with her terrible reputation, everything seemed contradictory. The Duke admitted that soon enough they would discover which version of her was real. However, Cookie suddenly became aggressive and flipped over the papers. Frustrated, the Duke cursed and complained that he would now have to remake everything. He became convinced that Princess Deborah had definitely done something to Cookie that she normally never did. In the end, he decided that the next time they met, he would absolutely uncover what she had done to his beloved Cookie. He angrily questioned how she had managed to make him look like a joke just because that gemstone should never have been discovered. He called her completely unnecessary and useless before asking whether Lady Mia had arrived at the mansion yet. The servant replied that she had not arrived yet. Turning around, he asked what was wrong, but the response was that there were still many patients who needed treatment that day. The saintess had made the people completely dependent on her, and now it was difficult for them to escape that reliance. Everyone continuously praised her as the holy light that had blessed them. He wondered why those people possessed such divine power, because without that immense ability, they would never have struggled so much in the first place. Still, he admitted that he was strangely pleased by such a pure and untainted person. Things that could not be swayed by money or authority carried a certain charm, to the point that even his own offers had been ignored. Soon, Mia arrived and thanked Sir Philip for inviting her. He politely thanked her for accepting the invitation and reminded her that it was her birthday, so she should rest properly. However, Mia admitted that she had completely forgotten it was her birthday because she had never truly celebrated it before. Shocked, he asked whether nobody had ever done anything for her. Mia softly replied that this year someone had remembered it for her, and that person was him. She confessed that it made her happy, almost like receiving a surprise gift. Philip replied that she was being too kind. As they sat together at the dinner table, Mia apologized because she had not even had time to eat properly. Philip simply told her they should eat first. While watching him, Mia quietly thought about how cute he looked. Philip then handed her the academy admission papers, and Mia thanked him sincerely, saying that attending the academy had always been her lifelong dream. However, Philip revealed that it was not all he had prepared. He handed her another gift and told her to take it because it was her birthday present. When she opened the box and saw the jewel inside, she was completely astonished. She admitted that such a grand gift was unnecessary because the recommendation letter alone had already been enough. Philip insisted that she should simply accept it because she had never properly celebrated her birthday before. He begged her to allow him to repay his savior in some way. Even then, Mia still hesitated and said she could not possibly accept something like that. Meanwhile, Philip secretly cursed to himself, thinking that everything would have been perfect if only he had managed to obtain that pink diamond. Mia looked at the jewel and commented that she never realized pink diamonds were so expensive. Philip casually replied that it did not even cost as much as his carriage, so she should not feel burdened by it. Mia became emotional and wondered whether he had really done all this just for her. As tears formed in her eyes, Philip gently wiped them away and told her not to cry because she was worth it. This was exactly the romantic scenario he had imagined in his mind. He believed she would have been deeply touched once she discovered the true value of the gift, but his entire plan had been ruined because of Princess Deborah. He bitterly thought that the pink diamond would have suited Mia perfectly and complained to himself about what a troublesome woman Deborah was. Later that night, Mia quietly stared outside the window and admitted that she was tired. Suddenly, someone approached her from behind and asked what she was looking at. Mia replied that she was admiring the flowers on the tree. Ophelia commented that it was not even the season for them yet, but somehow they had bloomed tonight. She also warned Mia that the weather would become cold before placing the necklace around her neck. Mia explained that it was a present given to her by the Montes family and asked Ophelia what she thought about it. Ophelia honestly replied that a necklace like that required a proper dress to match it. From what she had heard, Sir Philip Montes was not particularly sophisticated, and people would only laugh if Mia wore such a luxurious necklace with an old dress. They would simply say it was because she was a broke noble. Ophelia then added that things would have been completely different if the necklace had contained a pink diamond instead, calling it a real shame. Mia silently held her academy admission letter in her hands, but despite the congratulations written on it, she could not bring herself to feel interested. A few days later, the academy's first day finally arrived. Deborah looked at herself in the mirror and became speechless over how beautiful she looked. Her stylist proudly explained that the dress had been designed to appear both glamorous and simple, modern yet classic. It was elegant enough to wear at a party while still remaining suitable for everyday events. Deborah could only think about how stunning it looked and how perfectly Deborah's face matched her own taste. Suddenly, the mirror nearly fell, but one of the servants quickly caught it. Deborah apologized, then quietly reflected on how terrifyingly powerful this body really was. With such a strong stigma and such excellent health, she rarely became sick. Even if she was considered wicked, she still possessed incredible strength and would probably live a very long life. At that moment, a servant approached from behind and informed her that the carriage was already waiting in front of the mansion. Deborah reluctantly replied all right, while inwardly complaining about how much she hated the academy's first day. She desperately wished she did not have to go at all. However, as she looked outside the window, she noticed two carriages waiting instead of one. One carriage was obviously hers, but then what was the second one for? Looking closer, she spotted a young royal boy standing beside it and immediately realized that it was Enrique Seymour. Wasn't that kid Enrique Seymour? Deborah immediately thought about how unbelievably cute he looked. However, the moment their eyes met, Enrique gave her a completely uninterested look, leaving her shocked. She wondered if that child truly hated her. As his carriage drove away, she realized that it was honestly not surprising once she recalled Deborah's memories. Unlike Deborah, Enrique had mastered third-class magic at a very young age. He was considered a genius, the top talent within the gifted program of the Magic Tower's laboratory. That was Enrique Seymour. Deborah, on the other hand, had always been obsessed with things she could not have, and her inferiority complex over being unable to properly control mana had been unimaginable. Considering her personality, it was only natural that she had envied her talented younger brother. Thinking about everything Deborah had done made her feel guilty. She realized that child must have suffered a lot because of her. She thought about how grateful she should actually be because Deborah already had such a good family. They were wealthy, powerful, and influential. Living inside Deborah's body felt like a blessing to her because, unlike Deborah, she herself had grown up surrounded by talented people and constant comparison. She was never truly insecure because she had always lived that way. Even so, regardless of the reasons behind it, she could never defend the fact that a young boy had been bullied. Just imagining that Enrique hated her made her feel strangely emotional. However, she quickly reminded herself that she still planned to continue living as a villainess anyway, so being hated was something she would simply have to accept. After all, sibling relationships were often complicated like that. As she stared out the window again, she admired how glamorous the area looked, especially since both the Imperial Palace and the Academy were located there. Suddenly, she was shocked after noticing the enormous line ahead of them. She wondered how long it would take to get through and regretted not leaving earlier. Just then, several soldiers hurried over and spoke to the driver before quickly clearing the way. Once the driver returned, Deborah realized that this must be the route reserved for VIPs. Feeling nervous, she could only think about how amazing it truly was to have power. Meanwhile, inside Pangea Academy's classroom, Deborah entered and quietly looked around. She was surprised to see that several people had already arrived. She noticed the last row seat beside the window and thought that it really was the most popular spot, even in this fantasy world. The moment everyone saw her enter, the atmosphere instantly became tense. Some students quickly whispered to each other before suddenly deciding to move elsewhere. One boy awkwardly claimed that he wanted to sit in the front row because it was too hot there, and another immediately agreed before both of them hurried away. As Deborah calmly sat down, she thought it was unbelievable that they had abandoned their seats just because she glanced at them once. At this point, she was no longer surprised by these reactions. In fact, rather than feeling bothered by everyone fearing her, she found it strangely comfortable. Suddenly, someone walked into the classroom, and the moment she saw him, her heart reacted instantly. It was Philip, the #1 problematic male lead. Shocked, Deborah clutched her chest and wondered if Deborah's body had always reacted this way whenever she saw Philip. Memories immediately resurfaced in her mind. Deborah had first met Philip 6 years ago during the imperial family's Thanksgiving banquet. At the time, Deborah's dress had accidentally caught fire, and Philip had helped her. Although it had only been a simple act of courtesy and manners, the naive Deborah had fallen in love with him after that moment. She later tried confessing her feelings and even brought up marriage, but Philip rejected her immediately, deeply hurting her pride and dignity. Deborah quietly admitted to herself that although the original Deborah definitely had her own problems, it was still surprising how strongly these emotions remained. Suddenly, she noticed someone standing behind Philip. Mia looked at Philip and asked what was wrong before following his gaze. The moment Mia saw Deborah, she was completely stunned and quietly thought about how unbelievably beautiful she was. It was exactly like seeing the female lead in person. Deborah immediately realized that everyone had probably been staring at her like this the entire time. She quickly assumed it was simply because of her appearance, but she also understood how easily misunderstandings could happen in situations like this. Deciding that it would be best not to cause unnecessary trouble, she avoided making eye contact and simply looked away. Meanwhile, Mia softly commented to Philip that there were so many elegant people in the capital. Philip replied by asking what she meant, and Mia pointed out the beautiful girl with purple hair. However, Philip immediately responded that Mia would never say such things if she knew Deborah's actual personality. Philip quietly thought about how Mia truly knew nothing about this world yet, but at the same time, he found Deborah's calm behavior suspicious. Normally, Deborah loved showing off more than anyone else. There was no pink diamond around her today either. He could not understand what she was planning now. He even wondered if she had changed her methods completely just to gain his attention. Meanwhile, Princess Deborah remained completely unbothered as she calmly stared outside the window. He quietly thought that she was even more beautiful than he had imagined. Just by looking at her, anyone could tell how elegant she was. She looked perfectly fine like this. However, Mia suddenly interrupted his thoughts, instantly making him nervous. He cursed himself internally and wondered what he had even been thinking about. Feeling embarrassed, he quickly told Mia not to pay attention to Deborah because Mia herself was far more beautiful and elegant and could never be compared to her. Mia immediately became flustered and shyly asked him not to say such things because she could never compare herself to Deborah. Her humble attitude only made her appear even kinder than everyone else. Meanwhile, as the lecture continued, Deborah slowly became sleepy and eventually fell asleep at her desk. In her dream, she heard someone enthusiastically suggesting that they should go eat together because the meal would be on them. Another voice happily thanked them, saying the timing was perfect because they were hungry. Then someone mentioned craving coffee after eating and suggested trying the new menu from Bile Cafe. Another voice worried that the new menu would probably be expensive and said they only needed 2 more stamps to receive a free dairy product. Someone else immediately offered their own stamps, and the person gratefully thanked them while saying that they were the only one they had. Just as the strange dream continued, Deborah suddenly shouted not to give everything away before abruptly waking up. Realizing it had all been a dream, she immediately called it filthy. A young boy standing nearby informed her that class was already over. The moment she looked at him, she became completely stunned and wondered how someone could possibly be that handsome. She even questioned whether she was still dreaming. Confused, she asked who he was. The boy looked surprised and asked whether she truly did not know him. Deborah casually replied that there was no reason she needed to know him, although internally she was still shocked that she somehow did not know someone that handsome. He introduced himself as Isidore Visconti. The moment she heard the name, she immediately remembered the girls at the cafe obsessing over him earlier. So this was the man everyone had gone crazy over. After finally seeing his face herself, she admitted that their reactions were understandable. If a man like him existed in Korea, he could probably earn countless buildings simply by breathing in front of a camera. However, Isidore suddenly asked what the matter was and mentioned that she probably could not bring something like this with her. He showed her a printed paper, and Deborah instantly remembered her past life when Kim Han-joon had once handed her a paper exactly like that. Back then, she had reacted in a similarly awkward way when she first met that jerk. Trying to ignore the situation, she muttered that she did not need things like this. Isidore curiously asked why she seemed so nervous and wondered if she had a nightmare because she had been sleeping while frowning the entire time. He admitted that it only made him even more curious about her. Then he casually pointed out that it was lunchtime and asked whether she was hungry. Deborah immediately replied that she was not. Isidore calmly responded that he was not very hungry either before suggesting that they at least have some tea together. As Deborah looked at him, She wondered why people who looked like this always had to act so crafty and dangerous. Quickly standing up, she claimed she had no time and needed to return to her carriage before excusing herself and rushing away. As she hurried out, she internally panicked and admitted that a gorgeous blonde man like him awakened dangerous instincts within her. Nothing could save her anymore. She even remembered how Kim Han-jun from her previous life had treated her like an ATM machine simply because of his face. With a face like Isidore's, she felt like she would end up agreeing to anything he said. Frantically trying to calm herself down, she insisted that she had to endure it no matter what because handsome men were genuinely harmful. Meanwhile, Isidore remained seated outside alone, deep in thought, when his assistant suddenly approached him from behind. The assistant reminded him that they had an important lunch meeting scheduled and questioned why he had not gone ahead first like instructed. Isidore replied by asking why he was even pretending not to know the answer already. The assistant jokingly guessed that his beauty must not have worked this time, which was why he seemed so irritated. In response, Isidore immediately hit him and arrogantly declared that this phase could accomplish anything. It was simply that he did not yet understand what Miss Deborah actually liked. The assistant pointed out that it did not really matter whether Deborah liked his face or not because there were always exceptions. He then added that Deborah seemed to prefer Philip far more than Isidore anyway. After all, everyone knew about Deborah's obsession with Philip, and there had even been rumors about her wanting to marry into the Montes family. Isidore casually mentioned that she had ultimately been rejected anyway, but strangely enough, he realized he did not feel pleased hearing that. The assistant continued explaining that Deborah was already full of confidence and energy on her own, so there was no reason for her to become obsessed with handsome men so easily. He then asked whether Isidore planned to change his strategy after failing this time. Hearing the word failure immediately amused Isidore. He questioned what the assistant was even talking about because, in his opinion, the plan had not even started yet. As Deborah looked at the board without much interest, she suddenly noticed that the social clubs were being introduced. Another obstacle, she thought to herself. Pangea Academy was not truly focused on academics but rather on social status and connection. That was exactly why these social clubs had been created and developed in the first place. As she continued reading, she realized that a person's social standing depended heavily on which club they belonged to. For aristocrats, joining a prestigious social club was considered everyone's dream. Among them, Arachron was perhaps the most famous of all. Inside the club, members were divided into a men's fraternity group and a women's sorority group. Deborah suddenly remembered how, in the original story, Deborah had tried to isolate Mia within Arachron's sorority, yet in the end, Deborah herself became nothing more than a ghost story whispered behind people's backs. Thinking about all this made her sigh because she truly wanted to stay far away from the entire situation. She wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. The clubs were divided into ranks such as Upsilon, Tau, and Stigma, but the real problem was that these places judged people not only by their family background but also by their abilities, personality, and reputation. Deborah realized that she lacked every single one of those things. Still, joining a terrible club would naturally lead to being ignored within society, and it would practically help Bilrek, who was already trying to distance himself from her. Feeling frustrated, she complained internally that this entire strange system was slowly killing her. Suddenly, she noticed a crowd forming nearby. Isidore had arrived and was completely surrounded by girls. Deborah immediately realized it was him. The girls excitedly whispered about how he was even more handsome than they had imagined. They admired how perfectly his coat suited his broad shoulders and even joked that it looked like a halo was shining behind him. Watching all this annoyed Deborah, and she wondered whether this academy even had any normal clubs at all. Even so, she had to admit that he really did look different dressed like that. It suited him perfectly and made him appear incredibly stylish. Suddenly, their eyes met. Deborah immediately wondered whether she had been caught staring at him silently. Meanwhile, the girls standing nearby mistakenly believed that Isidore had been looking at them instead. However, to everyone's shock, Isidore directly called out Lady Deborah's name. Deborah immediately thought about where this conversation was even heading. Isidore calmly approached her and asked whether she would like to have tea with him if she was free later. Every girl nearby instantly turned to look at Deborah. Feeling uncomfortable under everyone's attention, she pointed out that there already seemed to be plenty of people willing to drink tea with him. Internally, she could not understand why he kept approaching her specifically. As he stepped even closer, he told her not to worry about anyone else. His words only made her more nervous. Trying to remain prideful, she arrogantly replied by asking who exactly he thought she cared about. Isidore simply laughed and commented that it was unfortunate. Deborah became even more confused and wondered what was seriously wrong with him. He then revealed that he actually wanted to talk to her about the fraternity. Hearing that instantly shocked her. Panicking slightly, Deborah quickly claimed that she needed to attend class right now and suggested they talk about it later instead. Isidore casually agreed and repeated that they would speak later. Afterwards, Deborah headed toward the magical education hall and sat at her desk. She quietly wondered whether she was unintentionally acting too much like a villainess. Suddenly, another student entered the room, and Deborah immediately thought that he smelled exactly like an engineering student. In modern times, wizards were basically researchers, making magic feel like a difficult profession similar to engineering. At moments like this, she even felt grateful that she lacked the talent to properly handle mana. Soon, Professor Kyle, the professor of magical formulas, began the lecture. He explained that the formulas written before them were the ones they would study throughout the quarter. He also warned the students that anyone lacking the willingness to study voluntarily or possessing weak logical thinking would struggle greatly to keep up. His words immediately terrified the entire class. The professor then announced that he would only conduct a simple test today and that students could submit it and leave afterward. Hearing about a sudden formula test completely shocked Deborah. She quietly thought that there was no way she would be able to solve it anyway, so she planned to waste some time before handing in a blank paper and leaving. Honestly, none of this made sense to her. She was technically a magic major despite not even knowing how to properly control mana. Although she wanted to avoid dealing with it for as long as possible, she knew her father would never allow her to change majors if she brought it up. As she stared at the paper in frustration, she wondered why everyone was making such a huge fuss over this test. However, after carefully reading the questions, she slowly realized something strange. The test was unexpectedly easy. As the professor held up the test paper, he looked completely irritated and questioned what exactly this was. He could not understand why the answer sheet contained only answers without any explanation or solving process written down. The assistant immediately explained that it was Lady Deborah's answer sheet and assumed that she had probably threatened the other students before copying their answer. Hearing that, the professor angrily threw the paper onto the table. He could not understand why such a disgraceful person existed within the Seymour family. Even if she was the beloved daughter of the Demon Tower Master, he still could not simply pretend not to notice something like this. He had already called for her, so now he wondered whether he should properly say something. Although he was not a nanny, he still had to teach basic things like honesty to students like her. However, the assistant suddenly interrupted and carefully explained that if they were talking about cheating, then Lady Deborah had actually been the very first student to finish writing the answer. Shocked, the professor immediately questioned whether that was really true. The assistant explained that although the test normally took around 15 minutes even for talented students, Deborah had solved it in only 5 minutes. Naturally, everyone assumed she must have answered incorrectly because of how fast she finished. As the professor stared at the answer sheet beneath his foot, he bitterly thought that Deborah truly had been born with incredible fortune just by being born into the Seymour family. If she could not even control mana properly, then she should have at least controlled her personality well enough to marry into a good family. He could not understand why someone incapable of handling energy would even attend this place. Anyone hoping to enter a magical research institute should at least work hard enough to memorize the formulas properly. Meanwhile, inside the Seymour family library, Deborah quietly entered and looked around in amazement. The library inside the mansion was enormous, although still smaller than the university library she remembered from her previous life. As she wandered through the shelves, a man approached her and politely asked whether she was looking for a specific book. Deborah casually replied that she was simply planning to look around first. The librarian then explained that the library mainly contained historical and magical books related to the Empire. He added that they did not keep the romance novels currently popular among noble ladies, so if she was searching for those types of books, he recommended visiting a rental bookstore in the city instead. Deborah immediately responded sarcastically, saying that it was truly a pity. At first, the librarian assumed she meant the lack of romance novels, but Deborah clarified that the real pity was the existence of a librarian with such a narrow mindset. She even remarked that her father had assigned an unnecessarily important responsibility to such a petty person. The librarian became visibly shocked and asked whether she had not spoken too harshly. Deborah coldly questioned whether he was actually proud that the library failed to provide books from various genres and fields. The librarian stubbornly insisted that there was no need to stock third-rate novels when so many excellent books already existed. Deborah immediately asked whether he had ever even read those novels himself. Without hesitation, he replied that there was no need to. Hearing that only irritated Deborah further. She criticized him for looking down on other people's work and labeling it as third-rate without even checking its contents first. To her, his narrow-mindedness surpassed everyone else's. She even questioned whether he was truly managing the library properly. The librarian quickly changed his attitude and nervously asked what book she wanted so he could find it immediately. Deborah requested a book about mages and large-scale 3-layer magic formulas before mockingly asking whether he could instantly locate it in one attempt. Naturally, he could not. Since there was no search function in the library either, he struggled to find it quickly. Deborah coldly warned him that if he wasted even a little of her time, he had surely heard the rumors about her already. Her threatening tone instantly terrified him.